Namaste, Prabhavati. Thank you so much for allowing the Calm Mind series to interview you. Our section, the interview, we're speaking to individuals whose story and wisdom we want to share with the world. So we really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today. As you know, these are extraordinary times of great need and what seems to be evolving into some kind of global revolution. So thank you once again. And for those of you who are watching and are not familiar with Prabhavati's work, before we get into things, I would like to say that we deeply admire fighting for children's rights and education with your charity, Ramana's Garden Children's Home, on the banks of the holy Ganges River in Rishikesh, India.
Or
so, could you please?
Or now in Kodia, if you see it behind me.
Yes, true, in the mountains of Uttarakhand. So, can you please tell us about yourself, your childhood, and any inspiring role models that you had in your younger years of life? What qualities did they embody?
Okay, I was born in Colorado and the Four Corners area, just 6 miles from the New Mexico state line. And I'd say my mother ran a trading post on the reservation for the Navajo and Ute population that lived and came up from lower reservations in Arizona, etc., for seasonal work. Mostly there were lots of bean farmers, so they would be hired on. And my first memories were certainly with my mother. She was such an advocate for equal rights, and we'd be trucking around in the night in the old beat up truck because she heard that one of the Indians was really ill, or they'd been mistreated or beaten, which was very often the case, or not being given their payment after many months. And I was very resentful because what it meant is Mom had a trading post, but she very seldom traded anything. They were supposed to be making rugs and jewelry, and I understand very clearly now they were too busy just trying to survive, and Mom gave them a lot of food to make that possible. But it meant I couldn't have all the things that the other kids had and that I wanted. So it took me some time to get my head around that and to understand. My grandmother was an incredible mentor for me as well. We were not far from the rail lines. There were still hobos traveling the rail who would often come to the house and beg for food, and they were always welcomed and given a place at the table, and much to my chagrin would be given the first choice of the Sunday dinner fried chicken. I was actually among those hobos that I saw my first Black person, because there just weren't any out there on the reservation. And I can remember asking my grandmother, what is wrong with him? Why is he so Black? And she said, there's nothing wrong with him, Magdalena. God made him especially that way to teach us to be kind. And I was like, well, I don't really get that, but I was very excited to sit next to such a special person at the table. And he even let me pull the wishbone and let me win, I could tell. And then when he was leaving, she gave him a pair of Paws overalls. And I said, is that kind? Is that what it means? Did we learn our lesson? And she said, God will find a way to teach you that lesson every day. And what I see happening in America as it's being literally torn apart with rioting and extreme unrest is exactly that. This is an issue that hasn't ever been really resolved since slavery. And when I was 17, I did go to Hollywood and try my hand at being an actress, and wound up working definitely as an actress, but in a theater piece for the Black Panthers, and being very involved. with their struggle for civil rights. And my involvement was giving breakfast to the millions of children who otherwise wouldn't have breakfast every day. That was one of the things. Very few people realize how much humanitarian work they did in their struggle to bring equality. When I see what's happening in America right now, I see that we just have not taken the steps forward that so many died for at that point and have died for all along. For me, Corona and the lockdown, we're very happy to be locked down in this jungle, but financially it's testing us to the core, but okay. For me, it's worth it if it's taken by all of us as a time to rewind, to reset, to rethink. We have to. Everyone's so excited to go back to normal, waiting while we tried to connect. I was reading how places that rush to be normal, quote unquote, again, and opened up are having to close down because cases are spiking so fast. And my feeling is that's just going to continue and continue until we really reset. There is no normal. The life we were living was not normal. Millions starving when there's more than enough food to feed everybody every day is not normal. The over 120 police killings in 20 days since George Floyd's murder. That's not normal. If that's the normal we're struggling to come back to, my feeling is we're just going to get slammed back into lockdown, into curfew, into whatever, until we come out. And that all this racism is coming out, for me, of course. I mean, the destruction of Mother Earth has to be looked at. It's been clearly seen how the air cleaned, how pollution reduced, how rivers that were never clean for hundreds of years are now flowing clean. It's unmistakable, the difference this has made to the environment. And now the next poisonous area, it's like a volcano that has to erupt. It's like a wound, and this one goes way back. I mean, this one goes right back to the slave ships, goes right back to human beings being sold on an auction block, goes right back to human beings being considered legally inferior to white people. That's a wound, and we're not going to just kick back in and get normal until that gets healed. And it's opening now. It's extremely unfortunate that the protests that are starting out peaceful and are starting out really in support of wanting that are being hijacked by paid infiltrators and agitators, and it's ugly. But I still believe that we will overcome this. We will not, in my opinion, in my feeling, we will not go back to what was called normal. Either we step up and make the changes on every level, environment, racism, or we will be extinct. There have been 5 extinctions. One more doesn't make a whole lot of difference to the planet. If we can't get it, we'll be taken out. That's what I feel, Katie. That's why I'm working every day. That's why I'm teaching. This is a gift. Corona has been given to us as a chance to rethink, to reset, to understand. My feeling is it's a plandemic. That's pretty obvious to almost all of us. I don't know if it came from a bat or where it came from. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who created it, what their agenda was. It's up to us to change that agenda. We do not have to accept it. We do not have to accept an agenda that was created to enslave us, to take away all our rights, to inject us with a vaccine that it clearly states will change our DNA. We do not have to accept that. If that's why it was created, that doesn't matter. The choice is going to be ours till the last moment, what we make of this. It's the same with the protests and riots. It's extremely unfortunate. The violence, the unneeded death, the destruction of property, especially poor property, people, little shopkeepers that may never open again. But it's still in our hands. What do we do with this? Do we simply become sheeple and accept it and go along with it and say, okay, I want it to be normal again. Give me the vaccine. Let's get normal. That wasn't normal, and we can't go back. We either wake up and step up, or it's over. And sitting up here in the jungle, I can only see what's going on in the world on the internet, but it speaks to my heart very, very deeply that we have to keep getting the word out there. It's still in our hands, and I don't care who created it. I don't care what their agenda was. Is it Illuminati? Is it the deep state? It doesn't matter. They forget one thing, and that one thing is the principle that created us, and it's grace. And if we tap into that, and we tap into our resilience, and we tap into compassion, and we tap into wanting it to be different, not wanting it to go right back where it was, it can never go back. It'll never go back. If we don't tap in to wanting it to be very, very different, we're done. That's all I can say, Katie. I feel it with every cell in my being. Every time I open the internet, it's reinforced with this and that, and now this, and you know, we have to get it.
Absolutely.
If we give it up, that's still our choice. If we put it in somebody else's hands, yes, lock us down, vaccinate us, change our DNA, enslave us. Nobody's doing that to us. If we give it to them, then we gave it up. It doesn't matter what they're trying to do. It matters what we are trying to do and what we have to try with every single breath. And that is to create change, create the world we want. No one can honestly, deeply, in the heart of hearts, tell me that the world we were living in pre-corona was normal. Scratch a little deeper and see, was that normal? Was the white supremacy normal? Was the racism normal? Was hunger normal? Was the war and the killing and the non-stop brutality and aggression and genocide, is that normal? That's not normal. And we're not going to be allowed to go back there. Mother Earth won't accept any more abuse, number one. If we don't make the changes to save her, she can't help us save ourselves. We're all interconnected. Science proves it. Nobody wants to look at that. If trees are interconnected and they communicate during their roots, through their roots, do you think we're not all interconnected as well? That we can just go on poisoning and destroying Mother Earth and putting that in the bank and we'll all be fine? We're never going to be fine again until we make the necessary changes. Will we make them? I don't know.
Absolutely, and we all have a personal responsibility to partake in this change. Certainly, we're all being asked to question, quite obviously, our beliefs and the systems that we're operating within. And I mean, I would say that this is something that you've been doing in your work for a long time, questioning the systems, providing education for especially women, girls in India, where they may not have potentially had that chance. So could you possibly talk to us, and we will come back to the pandemic and all that is going on, because of course it's the current affairs right now are so unprecedented that we cannot ignore it at all. But have you seen any change for women or for girls in India since the time that you started Ramana's Garden?
Absolutely.
Speaking of change, yeah.
I've been working with Ramanas now for the last 29 years, and the change is profound. And that change came in women being empowered to just stand up and say, our lives matter. When I started, an example would be when I tried to open schools, only the villagers brought only boys. And I said, wait. Are you going to tell me there aren't any girls in the village? And they said, no. They have to work, or they're going to be married, or they're a liability. No. We only want to educate the boys. And I said, okay, get this. Either if there's one single girl in a family and you have 5 boys, not one of them will attend a school until that girl does. No, they can't. They have to work. They have to cut grass for the buffalo. They have to carry water. They have to do this and this and this. I said, fine. Your boys will not be educated. And slowly, after 4 or 5 days of registration, hundreds of girls appeared. Hundreds. With great reluctance. And I said, okay, let's look. Now, name, I don't know. Malum nahi. What do you mean? You don't know your daughter's name? Ask her mother. Wow. Okay. So, property, yes, I have this much land. I have this many buffalo. I have this many cows. I have this many goats. I have 1 or more wives. What? The woman is lower than the buffalo and the cows and the goats? Yes. But she is a possession. This is where we started 36 years ago. We do not stand there today. We do not stand there at all. The first step in the change was education. Education of children, education of women, making women valuable. First of all, making them understand that they can be valuable. Creating women's vocational training. So it was the woman who was the breadwinner. Immediately her status in the house changed. It was the woman, because it is in fact the mother who is the first guru. She is the first teacher. So if she has lived in total subservience, totally as a doormat, then she will accept that all of her daughters will also live that way. But when they see that she has rights, she has many rights, she has the same rights, she can do many things that never were made available to her. She can learn to read, she can learn to read and write. So very soon it was the women in the household that were literate, because we provided free literacy for all women. Free education for both boys and girls, but they had to be treated equally. And the schools had to function without caste. So you can't talk to me about white privilege. I have been fighting caste privilege here for the last 36 years. And it was they've tried to kill me at least 3 times, maybe more, and I didn't know about it. That's how unsuccessful they were. But the basic premise was, no, they are lower. They are dirty. They will make whatever we have unclean, unholy. Isn't that racism in a nutshell? I said, they sit together, they eat together, and they take water from the same source. Oh, impossible. We built water sources, they broke them. I said, all the children sit in a circle and eat together. Angry bigots came and threw boiling hot dal, lentils, on the lower caste children. And on it went. Lives were lost in both sides. But in the end, they have the same school, the same water, and they sit together and eat the same meals, and have been doing that since 28 years. And the first step, and certainly the last step, is making them understand that you are not less. And anyone, you are not untouchable. It's worse. The title here is worse than we hear in America. You are an untouchable being. As long as you believe that, you will never stand for your rights or your freedom. But if we can show you that that's a title that was given out of fear, that was a title that was given to be able, because people fear you and want to control you. No one is untouchable. Then no one is. And that's how simple. No one in any of the 68 villages where we've put over 25,000 children through free education and educated over 1,000 women in vocational training, mostly weaving, does untouchable exist any longer. And it doesn't need to exist anywhere in the world. It's a matter of education and changing the mindset. For thousands of years, it was an accepted thing. You're born an untouchable. Even when I first came to India, the first staff I had in the house where I lived were all branded or tattooed, either branded or tattooed. So there's no chance they could ever come up. They could never overcome that title. That became illegal, but it didn't stop. The physical branding and tattooing may have stopped, but the barrier was education. Without an education, they had no way to come up. Providing free and equal education and nutrition to all was the secret and made all the difference. We don't have caste in any of our schools or villages now.
And that's amazing. That is quite the achievement in a country where it is still present. You know, it hasn't been erased.
Oh, far from erased. If you look at statistics, someone is killed every day for violating caste. A low caste girl or boy falls in love with a high caste and they're murdered for it. We lost a teacher. We watched this happen. She wasn't murdered, she killed herself rather than being forced into a marriage of the caste that her family preferred rather than the caste she had fallen in love with. No, it isn't eradicated. It's one child at a time. It's one.
Absolutely.
I had an official spit in my face once and tell me these people are untouchable and they're never going to come up. And I said, we'll see who moves. He was transferred. It's just understanding that it's not acceptable. It's wrong, it's a lie, and it's not acceptable. So if you don't feed it with the energy that it is okay or normal, then slowly you can etch away at it until it changes. But as long as you accept it as the normal, no, we were born this way. It's been this way for thousands of years. It's not possible to change it. It's very possible to change it. It has to change. It can change here. It can change in every country in the world where one human being is placed at a lower, beneath another. Just doesn't exist. It's a lie. It's always been a lie. And it's up to us now that have been educated to recognize that lie and take steps to change it. Not just the comments I've gotten on posts have left me just staring, absolutely gobsmacked. What? People who are like, no, I have Black friends. Wow. Yeah. Okay. It requires a lot of deep, deep searching. And there's a lot available right now. There's so much. Even I'm like reading new books that I know about, watching films. There's a wonderful film, if you have any doubt about what I'm speaking, called Just Mercy. It's free online. It's just so clearly shows the racism in the judicial system. That's just one area. But there are so many, many, many. And now we're in lockdown. How lucky. We have time to read. We have time to research. We have time to research in our own hearts. Am I harboring any of that? Is there any part of me that is in any way, through any action or thought, putting myself above another human being? And if so, okay, how can I change it? That's it. There's no judgment, no blame, no guilt. If I'm doing that, how can I change it? Do I know anyone who's doing it? Good. How can I help them change? It's like that. It's deeply connected. I don't find any difference in the caste system of America, of India, to the racism I see against color. North American, Indian, Alaskan, Canadian, so many. Racism against color. Call it what you want. It's the same. It's untouchability.
Certainly, and it's the same down here in New Zealand and Australia. We're also visiting these issues and addressing them within our own societies that were built on extremely harsh tactics, similar to that of America. So I think globally we're being asked to address these issues, and
absolutely,
hopefully for the last time.
Addressed. We're not being given an option.
Yes.
We address.
Certainly. So
change them, or we will not go forward. We can't progress as a species if we're feeding off of each other. It's a really disgusting form of cannibalism.
Absolutely. So can we just visit? We'll go back to the start here. Could you elaborate with us on how you came to start Ramana's Garden? I mean, certainly you've been doing this for over 30 years now, having educated thousands of children and given them a chance they never would have had. Can you tell us maybe a little about the name, perhaps, and also where the inspiration came from?
The inspiration came from a spiritual teacher who I had like so many, many, many foreigners, I wasn't rich, and I certainly wasn't, I was privileged in the sense that I could travel. I could actually come to India as a spiritual seeker. That's a big privilege. I had enough to eat. I had a place to stay. But the poverty was absolutely overwhelming for me. I felt helpless. It was too big. I really couldn't do anything to change it. Even if I gave every single penny that I had anywhere in the world, it wasn't even going to make a change that would be noted anywhere. So feeling that kind of overwhelm, I really didn't do anything at all for the first, 14 years, except work on myself, work very, very deeply in learning various forms of healing and therapy and traveling the world and teaching and offering courses here and abroad. But I didn't directly face the issue of poverty. I gave and gave and gave, but always I had something left. So what is it? Marginal giving? I had a big wake up around that. I had been out teaching and working. I'd been on at least 16 different countries. I'd been gone 4 months. That's working almost every day to cover that many. And I was bringing back mostly cash. And there was a leper that was always in the railway station, in the underground, where you had to go under the streets on a little cart, who sang incredibly beautifully. And each time I came back, he was always there. And I always gave him a lot. I mean, in terms of what he had, and nothing in terms of what I had, if we're honest. Anyway, this day was no different. I had all my money in a money belt, and I opened it, and I gave him the equivalent for him to $1,000 for him, which to me was about $30, and went on my way with my luggage to catch my next train, not knowing that in the opening, the zipper had broken on my money belt, and everything I'd been out there working and earning had fallen on the ground. And I had to travel far. I had to travel to about 10 different platforms to get to the smaller rail that would take me back to the ashram. And just as I was getting ready to board the train, I heard, "Madam, madam, madam, you must wait, you must wait." And I wasn't even sure it was for me. And I looked back, and there he was, pedaling at full speed on his little cart without legs to give me back what I had dropped, all of it. Not a penny missing. I didn't even know I dropped it. This was huge for me, huge. How many of us would have done that without legs on a cart through 12 platforms? I thought about it a really long time. It was a long train ride, 8-9 hours. But always the same excuse or alibi would come up. But what are you going to do to change that? Well, very soon I found out, because the ashram and the guru that I was with, he left the body. And I went in pursuit of another teacher to the north. And one of the first things he did was send me to live in a cave on the banks of the river Ganga for a year in silence. Told me to stay there until I learned the language of the river. I don't know if I learned the language of the river, but I learned the language of the people, because very soon children were coming with infected wounds that could have been saved with a Band-Aid, and now they had major lancing and draining and things I wasn't even fully trained in. I had to constantly be learning, increasing my medical box, and understanding. I wished on the train that day that I knew what to do. Life was showing me. You take what you have and you use it. That's it. I didn't have much. Very soon I had nothing and had to go out and go around the world and work again. And this time bring it and use it to build schools, to build a proper dispensary, to feed, nutrition. And it hasn't stopped. Obviously, here we are. We're so blessed that we can survive this pandemic, because we've been doing exactly that. What you see behind me are our plantations. So we're here with every single thing that we need to eat is growing. We have all the vegetables growing. We have fruits. We have wild fruits. This morning I had mulberries. Yesterday, strawberries coming from the jungle. We have everything we need to survive up here, if we have to survive up here for even many more months. And this has been the plan for the last 28 years. Find a way to get self-sufficient, find a way to get children and feed them organic, nutritious food. And thank God we did, because now we've escaped. There's 11,800 new cases today in India, and we're here with more than enough to eat, fresh spring water, and we are 12 kilometers from any danger. This is understanding something that I think each and every one of us has to do. No more lawns, big movement. Find a way to grow your own food. Minimum, your own food, and preferably some to share. We don't know what's coming, but one thing is sure. We need to have healthy food that we can access. if things get shut down, locked down. For the first, now we've been here exactly 45 days. For the first 30, there was total lockdown, and it meant total. If we hadn't had all of our fields and all of our vegetables and our fruits and our cows for milk and our chickens for eggs, we wouldn't have been able to survive. But lockdown didn't affect us at all. And my feeling is we all have to reach that in our own way. We don't know what's coming, but we need to get self-sufficient. Then we're ready. As much as we can. People say, well, I can't. I live in an apartment building. Grow on your veranda. Or I can't. I have a lawn. Dig it up. Plant. We don't need lawns. We need food. Sustainable, organic food that nobody can deny you in a lockdown because it's not being supplied. We have to start to supply ourselves. This lockdown really showed me that. And we were feeding for all the first 30 days of the lockdown. We were feeding down in Tapovan, and we were feeding 100 to 150 starving people every day. They had no access to food, none. And every spoon I gave was from our reserve. And a part of me went, hey, maybe, and the other part went, just do it. Just do it, Dwabha. And what can I say to you? We've never had vegetables like we have this year. The crops are just mega abundant. We have so much broccoli today that we have to pickle maybe 100 kg of it. There's grace. We gave everything we had down in Rishikesh, and we've been given back 100 times here.
Thank goodness. And glad to hear it.
Grace.
Talking about further on COVID, Ramana's garden, the school has obviously had to close down.
All schools are closed. Schools,
yeah, and for there's no opening date at this point.
None.
Nothing. Okay. So then, as of now, do you have any idea of what the new normal will look like? Has there been any indications, any communications, anything at all?
Come on, Katie, if you want to make God, just make a plan. A plan for the return to normal. There have been it's going to be over in 2 weeks. Yeah, that was 6 weeks ago. We're going to return to normal and by the end of the month. 2 months have passed. It's what I said in the very beginning. We are never, never going back to that. Look, day before yesterday, in one of the worst hit cities in all of India, Ahmedabad, comes just behind Bombay, Delhi, Ahmedabad. They said, okay, it's enough now, we're opening. There were 4 huge earthquakes. Only there. I guess we won't open after all. No, we have no idea. We're homeschooling, and I've got all my teachers that are down in Rishikesh because they can't be up here. They have families, they have lives. They're all teaching online. We've never had internet here in 28 years. We have it suddenly, and yet it's on the next mountain, which means we're not getting radiated. We have to really move. Like I'm in this spot in the jungle because if I move 4 feet, I won't have it. So good, I don't have it at my house. So we're teaching. They're teaching online. We're teaching. We're doing homeschooling. We're ready to do that. You know, the kids said, will we be here in the snow? I said, probably. Will we ski? I don't know. We're
about being adaptable, isn't it, in these times, and just making the best of whatever situation we're presented with.
We're blessed. We're good. We're abundant. 100 kg of broccoli. No,
It's amazing.
we're blessed, but we can't go out. We don't want to go out.
Yeah.
We don't want to go out. Not until the out changes.
So let's talk on a little on mindfulness and the practices that the children at Ramana's do regularly. They have yoga and meditation, satsang. When were these introduced to the children, and how have you seen that sort of influence their behavior?
I think they were influenced the day we started, because it was the only way that I could find those hours a day to be quiet and meditate. Try to put 70 kids, 75, we've even had 80 at times, to bed at night. I mean, you all know it's exciting. Even I see it with my little cat. When it's time to go to bed, she's suddenly climbing the curtains. She's been laying on the bed all day. But if it's time to go to bed, she's climbing the curtain. And what we experienced is getting the kids to sing kirtan, to sing prayers, to chant, was the perfect solution to put them to bed, to calm them down, to put them in a altered state of stillness, of harmony. And it just grew from there, bringing that into the schools. I always wanted yoga. Of course, it wasn't in any government school curriculum, and I had to actually fight in India to teach yoga. That was a joke, but anyway, we won. Same, I know the value. I practice every day. I know where I would be if I didn't. And the importance of doing yoga, the importance of meditation, the importance of mindfulness, of taking care of each other, of the clear understanding of our interconnectedness. And it's just always been there as an integral part of what it takes to make this work.
Amazing. And hopefully, as time goes on, we'll see more schools and more countries adopt these practices that, I personally witnessed. They do have an amazing effect on children. So
Well, I
hopefully
think
as we evolve.
Really important, Katie, that if you can, and even in our village schools, that was one of the first things I implemented. Nutrition is so important. I'm so grateful to Nana, my grandmother. It was just like, food is God. And we were so poor. I didn't ever even have a new frock till I was, I don't know, old enough to work and buy one. But we always had so much food. Nana had this huge garden, and there was always food. And that's what I realized here. That's the first thing I implemented, was kitchen gardens in the schools. I think it's so important. Even if it's a city school, they don't need such an enormous playground. Take one corner. Kids need to grow their own food. They need to have contact with the earth. They need to understand what it is to plant a seed, see it sprout, see it become the food that you eat. And our kids are, as you know, you were here, directly involved with growing, harvesting, and preparing every single bite that they eat. And I think that's, you've got to establish a deep connection with Mother Earth. And it's part of the tremendous privilege of being up here in the jungle. We have no electricity. We have solar. We're lucky. We're on solar now. We have no running water. We have a spring. We don't want a running spring. But we have to go every day, as you know so well, Katie, into the jungle to collect firewood, to collect pine cones, to collect mushrooms, to collect wild berries, to collect wild ferns. Being up here connects us so deeply. We learn the language of the earth. We learn the language of the birds. The birds warn us if there are wild animals coming. They warn us if a storm is coming. Every child, every human, what am I saying, child? We need to reconnect that deeply to the mother. And we have kids who think that milk only comes in cartons. They don't even know there's a cow involved. You know that.
Very true. Re-education and reconnection is absolutely the future. And I just want to ask with, so compassion, as His Holiness, the Dalai Lama states, is the supreme emotion. And really, I view it as the center of charity work of any kind. So I mean, you, as I've personally witnessed, you have such a strong, consistent drive and desire to help others. What motivates you? What gets you up every morning and keeps you doing this work year after year, fighting these fights? How deep do you have to dig?
You have to dig really deep. But when you dig that deep, you see a child that was, well, you were here for Vimla, you know very well. Take a child that's been found sexually abused, still bleeding from being gang raped in a garbage bin, who is so mentally challenged that she can't care for herself in any way. She has no control of her bladder or bowels. She can't feed or dress herself. And you take that child and you bring her into this environment of love and support. For the first year, we had to have a 24/7 caretaker for her. Now, last year, she was already so independent here with you. Now, even more, Katie gets up, gets dressed, gets herself in her school uniform, showered and ready, and comes up the path at 7, calling for the driver to take her to school. And this is in 4 short years. When you see that kind of miracle take place, then there isn't even a question. You take a boy who comes to you because he was being used as a human bullet shield for the Maoist army when he's 8 years old. And you see him now flying airplanes as a pilot. You don't have an option when you see this kind of thing possible. There are, as you know, Katie, every single one of them has a story, and every story is overlapped with miracles upon miracles. And you just have to walk through one of those miracles, and there's no going back. What gets you up? What gets you up is knowing that if you get up and you give 100%, a miracle is going to happen. You're going to have a lawyer. You're going to have a doctor. You're going to have a professor of medicine who the college where she's the professor say she's the best teacher they've ever had. You're going to take someone who was sold either into child labor, into some form of tremendous abuse, and now they are doctors, lawyers, teachers, engineers. That gets you up in the morning. That gets you up. Gets you up to see what miracle will occur today. It's not about, in my opinion, I love Dalai Lama. I go as often as I can, as you know. We met there last year. Compassion isn't something you decide to do. Oh, okay, I'm going to try to be compassionate. It's a way of living. It's every day. It's every breath. Is there anything in this moment I can do that'll make a difference for another being? Is it an animal? I just had a baby hawk die in my hands today, and it was the huge hawk killed it, but it was still alive when it fell. and just being open. Okay, let's take this on. Everybody, all the kids, what's it going to take to save this little guy? But he was too far gone. But it's that. It's not, well, I think I'll start to practice compassion. No, you live it. You live it with every breath. Is there anything I could do that would make life easier for any being now? That's compassion. There isn't anything else. It's not something you can learn. You learn it by living it, is what I think.
Absolutely. And I've certainly seen how you live it. So finally, I would like to ask you, what would your wishes or message be to the listeners of this interview and to the world in these extraordinary times?
Share. Share. Share whatever you have. You know, there's a lot of us that have suffered tremendously. I don't mean that we are. There's a lot who haven't worked, who didn't have anything saved, who have gone through whatever they had. Maybe they never had anything. Maybe they lived day to day, as the hundreds that I had to feed at the gate. They had nothing. They were day laborers. Look around and see, what do you have to share? Whatever you have to share. Is it food? Is it kindness? Is it clutter? Is it cleaning out all? I mean, first step, I got what to do. Clean those cupboards, my God. Get down to the basics, minimums. What do you have that you can share? How many of those Lululemon stretch pant pairs do you need? Because there's people out there who don't have anything. And if we're all going to pull through this together, then there cannot continue to be the haves and have-nots. So you say, well, I'm out of work. I'm unemployed. I don't have much coming in. Okay. What can you share? How can you help? How can you make a difference? Can you feed one homeless person? What does it take to go down? I mean, my kids taught me this. It was a big one. We went to London with our dance troupe, which is a whole nother saga, but we were there. And the first time we took the tube, we came out of the tube station in a really bad area. And there were maybe 40 or 50 people begging on the street. And the kids were like, Mom, what are they doing? And I said, they're begging. Why? Maybe they're hungry. Maybe they don't have a place to live. A lot of them, it was obvious they didn't have a place to live. They were there even with their dog, whatever. And the kids were like, well, can we feed them? And I said, well, it depends. Are you ready to share your lunch? Because that's what we have for today. It was really day to day. We went on a shoestring. And they said, yeah, how? I said, well, let's look. And so we went all around and we finally found a Subway, the Subway sandwiches. And so we bought as many as we had money. It was our lunch budget. And we cut them. And every kid got some. We were 16 kids. And they said, can we give them to whoever we want? I said, yes. It was amazing. It was nothing. It was a piece of a Subway sandwich. It was like they were being given a 5-course meal, because the kids went and knelt down in the pavement next to them and said, I'm so sorry that you're hungry. I'm so sorry that I don't have a lot of money. We don't have a lot of money because we just came from India. But today we had enough to do this, and I hope that this will help. People cried. People hugged the kids. It was amazing. Share what you have. What does it take? You know, you don't have to, as I learned, you don't have to solve the poverty of India. You certainly don't have to solve the homeless issue in America, which hurts me a lot more than the poverty in India when I have to see it. Just help. How many can you help? Can you feed one person? Can you clean out your closet and go with clothes? Maybe some of those women living there haven't had anything nice in years. Whatever. Share. That's the only message I have, because we don't know where it's going. But it can't go anywhere as long as we have haves and have-nots. We have to share in any way that you can. If you have money, share it. See who doesn't. Choose somebody who's really doing the work like we are. Whatever. Help. Feed, clothe, keep people alive. Share your wisdom. Share your hope. Don't write shit in the internet, and don't just lock yourself in the room and watch one horror Netflix after another. Search, find something positive, find something uplifting. Call a friend every day. Make it a point to reach out to someone every day and just see how they're doing. You don't know. Maybe that call is going to save their life. Maybe they're having a really hard time right now. It's not about sharing money or big bank accounts. It's about sharing, reaching out. Are you okay? How are you? Do you need anything? Is there anything I can do that would change where you're at? Suicide rates have never been higher. Check it out. It's spooky. They're higher everywhere. Domestic abuse has never been higher. There's hundreds of cases every day, including domestic killings. If there's any question that you know someone who might be in a compromising position, give them a call. Take the time to care. Take the time to let anybody, from the homeless on the street to someone you think might be struggling with domestic abuse or with an addiction or just a depression. So many people who didn't even know they were fighting depression have fallen into it. Give a call. Hi, how are you? And mean it. How are you? Is there anything you need right now? Because some of you aren't in lockdown. You're whatever that is, lucky. You can get in your car and visit people. You can go to a friend who's having a really tough time right now. There's restaurants, I've heard. People are posting food left, right, and center. Invite someone out for a meal. Find out how they really are. Whatever it is, don't let a single day go by that you don't share something of yourself. I don't know another solution, because I don't know how long we're going to have this going on.
No, absolutely. And by sharing, we break down the division. Yes. And we unify ourselves, and in unity there is power. So it's just realizing that we are really all one and the same underneath our skin. So I think, yeah, it's a beautiful and simple message.
The whole agenda, whoever it is, I'm not here to figure out who it is, deep state, upstate, downstate. The tactic is divide and conquer. That's sure. That's crystal clear, whether it's racism, haves, have-nots, whatever. The way to win is exactly what you just said, Katie. Unify. United we stand. Divided, we're done. Anything that you can do to make a person know we're united. We're all going through this. We're all going through this. Is there anything you need to go through it a little easier? That's all.
Yeah, and that can change everything for someone, as you said. So yeah, it's really amazing advice. Well, look, thank you so much for your time today. We really, really appreciate it. I mean, as I said, but I'll say it again, your determination and compassion, tolerance, and kindness, all the service that you've given, it's just really amazing and something that should be celebrated in a world where these aspects of the human experience are really not nurtured nearly enough. But, we are seeing that change, and hopefully continue to do so. For anyone watching this video, if you would like to donate to Ramana's Garden Children's Home, your money will go very far and directly into helping furthering the education of children. And you can do that via our website or Ramana's website directly. So that's www.ramanas.org. So
Or
that's amazing.
we have two, Katie, because the
Ah,
ramanas.org is from our foundation. It's for everybody, but it was our foundation in DC, which means if you're an American watching this, you actually get a rebate for every penny that you give. Same as the big guys who don't do anything. Anyway, but the director said, Dwabha, this website is archaic. No one in the modern day has time to scroll through all the stuff you've got there. You need to make it interactive. You need to make it this. And I said, okay, you make it. Here's your photos. Boom, boom, boom. So yeah, it's upmarket, but I wouldn't give up mine because one thing I love is to curl up under a blanket with a cup of my favorite tea and scroll through a website that has videos and stories and pictures. So if you're one of like me, then you go to www.sayyesnow.org and spend an hour. Or if you're limited in time or you want it to be more upmarket, go to ramanas.org. They're the same. One's just old fashioned like me.
amazing. Thank you. Okay, that is fantastic. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you.
Thank you for spreading the word. Namaste.